guess we'll get started because we're already a little bit behind schedule. Welcome to Adapting and Adaptation. If you guys are here to learn more about the Tom Cruise movie and the graphic novel, or if you're just here because you're really interested in adaptations, this is the place to be. So adaptations are something that happen quite a bit in the graphic novel comics industry. You got books to comics, film to comics, comics to film, TV to comics, all kinds of stuff going on. There's all kinds of stories being passed across all kinds of different mediums, and it's also one of the most controversial things you can have in entertainment is an adaptation. Like back when like Watchmen came out, I was like really excited when I saw the first trailer, and then I was like really angry like after the film. And then I thought about it some more, and I was like, I think more people will have read the original because of any kind of remake. So I kind of look at it like in a positive way, like that, more exposure to a certain story. But anyway, we're all here to discuss a certain case, which is the novel All You Need Is Kill, which was originally written by Hiroshi Sakurazaka and brought over here by Masumi, and then recently got picked up to be turned into a movie by starring Tom Cruise. It's going to be called Edge of Tomorrow. It's coming out next spring in May, I believe. June, yeah. So Masumi, if I could have you talk a little bit about who you are and how you ended up bringing the novel over to America.
Hi everyone, I'm Masumi Washington. I'm editor-in-chief for Haikasoru imprint at Viz Media. So I just started talking about a little bit how actually we started the imprint. Then I talked about this book itself. So Haikasoru line, it's focusing on Japanese science fiction and fantasy. We are launching at the summer 2009. And then this book, All You Need Is Kill, is one of the first titles. So I know you guys know Viz Media has been doing manga publishing over 2 decades, and then so by that time we started thinking that was 2006 or 2007. Manga's popularity here in the United States market growing very fast, and then we see, wow, this is something we should try. We should introduce some other different format, and then I actually started working at Viz at 2001, and then seeing the old changes, all the growth of the manga market. When I started Viz, it's like a Ranma half or Dragon Ball. We have a comic format and cine comic format and all flipped and such, and just a handful of graphic novels published every month and such. So then since then the manga is growing, and then so it was really exciting and fascinating for me, and then oh wow, there's readers who is really enjoying something translated, because in the United States long time publishing industry general there's not such many readers here who's interested in translated materials. So like usually say like 2 or 3% of the readers just pick up the translated materials, but we know we learn it, that's not really true. So younger people, and then so they really don't care where this is translated or not, as long as they know the content type story itself is interesting. They're easily picking up. So and then they're thinking, so besides manga, what else we can do? And then at the time I was in charge for the 12 books line, which is manga anime related books like art book, profile books, novelization, and some novels we already tried at the time. And then so maybe we can try novels just as a separate imprint, and that's something we started to planning about that. So
yeah, no, I mean, I think Masumi's right. I mean, there were a few exceptions to the rule, like I think books by Haruki Murakami had already started to become slightly popular as well. What was happening, I think, in my sort of impression as a reader also was it actually came down to who the translator was and how it was translated. Because I think what had happened before is that a lot of the translations were a little more flat, like some of the nuances weren't quite there. And you can really tell the difference even with someone like Murakami, whose work is so visual. When the translator is different, you can tell a difference almost, it seems like, in his style, even though it probably isn't. So I think that was another thing too, where we talked a lot about who would work on these books and then who would edit them as well, because a lot of that comes down to an editor of kind of figuring out how are we going to actually shape this book and keep the essence of it, but also have to change sometimes the wording.
So, Masumi, what made you think that All You Need Is Skill in particular would work well over here?
Oh yes, then we decide, okay, let's try to make a science fiction imprint, and then started looking for what kind of titles there, and what is the best thing we can bring here. So then in the beginning, what I did is just go through the catalog or some stuff, and then see what's really was there. I was a big science fiction fan in Japan, but sort of old school materials I'm familiar with, and I really didn't know about the recent thing, which was published after 2000 and such. Then seeing the catalog, then it's more block in Japan, and a small catalog and just a title and a very brief description only, and then flipping that moclock and one day, and I saw this title, All You Need Is Skill, in the list, and what's this? Just, originally the title is All You Need Is Skill in English, and it's so amazing title, I think, and then just a brief description said, and that loop, and then caught in the loop, and then she's struggling to get it out, but then somehow find other mission for himself and such. That's so fascinating. So then it just even before I read through the book itself, the title and then just idea-wise, wow, this is something I'm looking for. Then I immediately put in this title in our possible publishing list, and then it was many, like 30, 40 books at the time, and then tried to narrow down at the time, and then started, I started reading and also get some sample translation put together for the review process in-house. So, and then that was not just by me, and then my partner, and then I'm glad, and then Eric Salman here, Biz's former,
right here.
Biz's former editor. So he was working with me to try to make this plan in shape. So we put all samples together and then have a sort of casual focus group in house.
Casual.
Casual.
I thought it was formal. Yeah, so that was one of the first things that I did. I was a manga editor at the time, and I was working on mostly Shonen Jump titles. So I was editing Naruto and Shaman King and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. And when Masumi and Eric were talking about putting this together, they sort of had this cabal of people who secretly also read other things other than manga and comics. And we would get together in a room and basically go through these 8 pages of translated submissions that would come in from these science fiction novels. And we kind of narrowed them down. We would talk about things like, what would work in America? What works with this? Is this really science fiction? There was a lot of like subtleties in the categories. We even had these long drawn out, I thought were interesting, but they were probably kind of boring to some people, but like about shelving and where would these go and what would happen if Viz put them out? Would it end up getting shelved with manga and then nobody would find it? So there were tons of talks about that too. And this is one of the books I think that everybody thought would actually work.
Actually, if this was not top picked at the time, you liked it, but
I liked it,
but this is it's more very focused on subgenre military science fiction, and some people really not into it, so they didn't pick. But I really remember then after first the meetings with those folks, and then one of the manga editor, Mike Montesa, he's a huge military science fiction fan, and he's our manga editor. He's doing Blue Exorcist, Yu-Gi-Oh, and such. And
he works on Black Lagoon too. Yeah. He's really into.
And recently he just started our newest title, Terraformers, and he's crazy busy at this point. And so anyway, so he came to me and then just told me, I want more, he said. Because originally, just as he said, just a few pages of translation. Sample we had, and it's very in the beginning. If you guys read it, or I don't know, but and in the first part is just talking crazy scene about the battlefield. His colleague is killed, and he's kind of trying to figure out how he can survive, and then enemy come. It's very intense and very fast-paced thing. So then we just show that part, and then he just said, "I really want to read more. Give me more." That's he said.
When Mike says he wants more or something, you give him more.
Yeah.
He's like a guy, almost 7 feet tall.
So Mike, okay.
When he taps on his desk, the whole room shakes.
I will bring more, and then and probably that's the moment I kind of decide.
That's when you make the decision.
Yeah, because we regardless manga novel, being acquiring titles, and then always really a little bit. We have a little bit fair, if this is really working, people really like it, and we always have some sort of concerns about that, but and then find that someone who could be our leader, and that makes us very, very confident. So and then for me, and then because then this imprint in particular, as I mentioned, so this is something I wanted to introduce to our own audience, to say, hey, besides manga, there's more different things in Japan, so you should try this one. Yeah. So, and then at the same time, I really wanted to grab our new audience, which is purely focused on science fiction. So this book particularly has both elements really clearly appealing to military science fiction audience, and at the same time also really connecting with our own audience who been really into manga. And you see, I still really like this cover. Then the cover is by Yoshitoshi Abe, and Abe is really popular in animation part. So then so many good things in this one book. So why not? We should just try this as our debut title.
Right. So so Haikasoru actually launched with this book, and somewhere in there the story got to Hollywood. How did that kind of happen?
Oh, then to make it that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and then so when we started around the time, as we are trying to figure out what's next besides manga or anime, so and then we have another in the same idea. So we started Biz Production, so which is our movie developing division to try to make a live action film in Hollywood. So I think later 2007 or 2008, Biz Production was formed, and then we got our own movie producer, Jason Hobbs, joining and then work with us. Then from the beginning, I kind of started chatting with Jason. So what kind of thing he's really looking at. So they primarily, of course, try to figure out how it works for manga and anime. But at the same time, I mentioned him. So we were about launching a fiction line as well. Are you interested to look at it? And then he said, sure. And then, so I think probably even before we published, later 2008, when we started translation, we kind of preparing for past publications. So we presented Jason our first 6 or 8 books briefly. Then at the time, like my reaction and showing the title and the cover and then explain a brief description, he just immediately grabbed. I want to try something with that. So
Do you think it was? I think American audiences do have some familiarity with like the time loop sort of device. Yeah. Do you think that's maybe kind of part of what he was responding to as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's been talking. People talk about the Groundhog
Day.
Yeah. So he made it say, "Oh, that remind me something like that." Yeah. But then the idea is not quite really new, but in that way, and then it's really still really fresh, and then really fitting to make it visualize. And then I totally agree. And then after that, he quickly. You cannot believe it, but the Hollywood folks working really quick. Maybe right after that, he probably start calling people who knows, like production people and such. Then shopping around right away. They're not waiting. They find something good. They just start talking, and then just try to make it something happen really quick. Even taking like a long time to just finish up the movie. But that's something. Yeah. It's that.
Okay. So right, kind of I kind of get this from like the marketing angle, right? So I heard we were doing the graphic novel, All You Need Is Kill next year as well, and I was like, oh, did we do that because we're getting the movie? But it turns out that the graphic novel was actually in talks like right from the beginning, right from the acquisition. So Joel actually is kind of the editor and kind of the effective project manager for that graphic novel. So if Joel could talk about like how we first got involved with that project.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the initial meetings when Masumi and Eric and then later the editor that was hired to work on the first set of novels, Nick Mamatas, who's also a science fiction writer in his own right, and he has a really good, I would call it an ear, I guess, but he's writing, so it's not really an ear, but he's a very lyrical writer in a way, and a very visual writer. And so I read this then, and I also wanted to know more, and I've sat next to Mike Montesa for a long time, so when he got more of it, I actually read it too. And the funny thing is, it has more appeal than just to sort of the military science fiction side, and that's part of what's so great about this story. I don't actually read things like this very often. My science fiction runs more toward, I like Philip K. Dick or Connie Willis. I kind of like more like thinky science fiction. I'm not really into people getting blown up, but this actually has a lot of the thinky stuff in it as well. So it's just a really good, simple story, but layered and complex in the same way. So I think as soon as I read it, at the time we were doing a revision on Shonen Jump magazine on the print version, and one of the things that we had talked about just in-house at Viz was trying to come up with maybe someday we could actually serialize something new that hadn't actually come out in Japan first in the same format. And this is one of the things that I remember we actually talked about trying to do as a serialized US-only story, just because I wanted to come up with some way to put it out there. We hadn't started doing Viz Kids or Perfect Square, any new original works yet based on other characters, and this is the only way that I could think of to do it. So
yeah, so that and even before when I decided to acquire the book, it's way before the movie development happened. I mentioned to the editor-in-chief of this Super Dash Bunko, Mr. Martomi, so how we like to do publishing in English. At the same time, and then is it possible we can discuss about American graphic novel format in some day? And then he just immediately said that that's a great idea. We could talk about it. So it's just regardless of what movie is coming or not. I thought that this could be a really great graphic novel, and then a little later, then Joel came to me one day. I need to talk to you something, and then how do you think of this idea? And then he mentioned, and I said, wow, that was something I've been thinking. So then we kind of started talking, briefly, but of course, at the time, it's really not a good time, and then of course, not really things happening, right? But yeah.
Yeah, I think it wasn't the right way to do it, I think, originally, is what we finally decided, is it actually needed to be a graphic novel in the sense that would work with Western audiences in America, which actually led to some of the things that we're actually doing with it. One of the biggest differences, I think, is that this is actually a full color. It reads the Western direction. It's graphic novel sized in terms of a trade paperback, like a regular DC, Marvel, or Dark Horse. It's not manga size. And what happened next is we just basically had to figure out what to do with a writer and an artist.
Yeah.
So the natural thing for me, because I was actually a fan of Nick's writing and he'd edited the book, was to work with him on the adaptation. And he had worked with the original translators. And so Nick actually is the adapter for the graphic novel. And once we had a script, which he really did do an incredible job with the dialogue.
That's Nick.
Yeah, it is. But anyway, once he had that together, then I was able to sit down with him also as peers, as an editor, instead of just as the writer for this. And that's when we started the next process of coming up with who was going to draw this thing. Which we had, I mean, everyone that we talked to, it wasn't like, oh, I don't know if I want to, oh, I don't know what that is. Seriously, all of the artists that we talked to were super excited and were sending in sketches right after we sent them the novel. So we actually...
We have some of the initial sketches.
From Lee.
For what?
From Lee or from, yeah, from Lee.
Yeah.
So basically, we narrowed it down to about 6 different people, and everybody, one of the things about adapting prose, and also one of the reasons we can talk later about why the film is going to look so different from our adaptation, is that this is a very visual novel, but nothing is really described in it. So it spurs your imagination, but there's no sort of guideline for what this would actually look like. And so every single submission that came in was wildly different from the last one. And we realized that we actually had to choose almost a tone and style for this that fit the artist and what we thought would work. And so what Lee actually turned in, we ended up hiring Lee Ferguson, who I was a fan of from some of the things that he had done at DC, but the coolest thing I think that he's worked on is his own title that I think was from Archaea. It's called The Misadventures of Miranda Mercury. And he's, been nominated for some awards for that, and rightfully so, gotten a lot of commendations for it. But it's basically this kind of, kick-ass girl out in outer space, and I think he hit it, and this picture of the character of Rita is actually why we hired him, not just all of his sketches. Because one of the things that we were getting was, I don't know how many of you actually read the novel, but Rita is basically described as a completely kick-ass soldier. Every single sketch we had, no matter how good the rest of it was her sort of in this completely unbelievable armor with Power Girl pieces cut out of it, and just like jumping with spears upside down in ways that people can't actually do. And I think Lee was the only person that really hit it, because in the book, she's actually described as this red-haired American farm girl who just by default ends up being this soldier. And he hit it exactly right. Yeah. This is her without her armor. She takes off that helmet and this is what she looked like. And we're okay, he gets it. We can actually make her look like a soldier. And then what I think he brought to it too, if you've read Miranda Mercury, he has sort of this 1950s science fiction style to his drawings and his armor. And instead of curbing that, like I think he's had to do for some of the more mainstream work he's had, we actually encouraged him to just go full force, make it look as bubbly and antennae and science fiction-y from the 50s as you possibly can. Although I think we did take the wings off the helmet finally. Yeah. They're a little impractical. But so this, you can see this is actually an early ink of what became the cover. But it's a really cool look. And as you can see, if you've seen the movie posters, it's very, very different.
Are these your notes, Joel?
Yeah. Yeah, they are. I wanted more aliens in there.
So we got more aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
that's our.
And these were the color variations too. We're trying, because basically, you know, it's a battle and a lot of things are at night, but you still need to be able to see. You just can't have like a dark sky with characters that you can't tell. But we ended up doing this sort of like burnt amber look to the cities when they're in battle. Those are the regular mimics coming at them.
Regular mimics.
Yeah.
And that's the final cover.
Those are all of our notes on the cover. Yeah. So if you ever want to be an artist, get ready. This was after we had approved everything else, and everyone thinks that they're finished. Then this goes around, and everybody writes on it again and changes everything.
You want to talk about this little controversy?
Oh.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, and actually, when I saw the cover, when I saw the cover and colored in different color theme, so that's actually really surprised, and how the colorist had the power to make something different. Yeah, and it's I'm kind of familiar with manga, of course. I'm Japanese, so manga is always black and white. Not always, but mostly. And then, so involving a coloring for the graphic novel. So, and then I really didn't get until then. This is a really teamwork job. You know, not just the penciler. Of course, penciler is having a really important point, but you know, the colorist is another power to make things different and then better. So then this one.
Yeah, what we were doing with this, and I think color started becoming more and more important with this book. I mean, I sometimes think the colorist is sort of the unsung hero, as is a letterer often for comics, because they're sort of at the tail end, but they're doing a lot of the back end work on a comic book. And what we did to get a colorist is I talked to a couple of people that had worked on other things with me, but I had to explain to them that this was going to be really, really different. Most of what I've done with colorists has been Max Steel and Ben 10 and worked on Voltron Force, and that's not what these look like. And so when I sent out the book to a couple different people, one of the guys was named Fajar Buana. His response to me was, hey, the book looks really good. One, is there an adaptation in Indonesian, which I don't think that there was, so he could read it better. And then the other is, he's like, oh, it looks like Yoshitoshi Abe is my favorite. I was like, okay, we're going to try you, because you kind of get where we want to go with this with our own take. So this is one of the other aliens, an iridescent mimic. And if you think it's easy to get iridescent across on a comic book page, think again. I only brought 4 versions of it here, but I think we got up to like 16. And every single one was slightly off, slightly off. And I mean, we went through things where I was hunting down what butterfly wings looked like. I couldn't describe it in words. And I think what finally ended happening was he mixed some butterfly wings with these weird light rays that I sent that were out in outer space that some like Hubble type thing took a picture of, and then the underside of a starfish. And that was, he combined those together, and that was what we finally got. And they were like, okay, this we can agree on, maybe.
Yeah, I understand that. But, so it's really hard to explain, and then so like he said, and butterfly, and then you know, other sea creatures. So how they can figure out, right? And then so that's why it's taking really long time to figure out all together what is something we should make it for that, right? Yeah.
All right, so Nick, the editor, we wanted to bring him here to New York, but he couldn't. So we're gonna do like a mock Skype interview. So here's Nick. All right, so Nick, how did this graphic novel adaptation kind of come about?
We've been toying with the idea of doing a graphic novel for a few years, and What You Did Just Kill was an early contender to be adapted because, well, for a few reasons. It's military science fiction, it has a strong visual element, there's time travel involved, so the same things happen over and over again, so we can save money on drawing panels. And, but until the movie really started coming together with the director and Tom Cruise as the lead actor, only then did we really make a decision of go ahead and make our first ever original graphic novel.
And did you have to change very much plot-wise to fit the content into this new format? What is that?
Very
Come on, Nick.
We had to remove some things. Mostly the side characters, weird side plots about eating potatoes, literally a few things about stealing liquor that were used to signal how the time travel worked in the prose, which in the graphic novels, in a visual, visual medium, we have to use those signals.
That's weird. Yeah.
When the music slowly goes down.
Yeah.
Besides having to work with Joel.
That was me. Should we continue? Okay, so besides having to work with Joel, what was like kind of biggest challenge?
Things. One is that the novel is in first person, so even though it's very visual with some descriptions, it's really subjective. And any sort of transformation from prose to visual medium is going to be very difficult. I always think about the movie Psycho. And in the book Psycho, the classic line is something like, he had a knife, stopped her scream, or cut off her scream and cut off her head. And when Hitchcock took that half a sentence, he turned it into that really shocking montage of the knife and Johnny screaming and blood swirling down the drain. So there are a lot of moments where we had to take a scene where we fought all day long and make it several pages of panels. The other issue was the film, because this is a graphic novel adaptation of the novel and not of the film. And so the film and novel graphic novel adaptation were coming out around the same time, so there was a concern to not make it like the movie. So of course I said, oh, can I see the movie? And they said no. And I saw a few minutes of the movie, and I heard something about the movie from one of the producers, and then I sort of asked, so what you want me to do is guess what the movie's going to be, and then not do that. And they said yes. So that was it.
Yep. All right, and what's it like doing a graphic novel adaptation after working on your other writing projects? Just kind of change the writing process.
Well, writing a script is very different than writing a short story or a novel or editing fiction or nonfiction. In that one thing, you have to explain everything. You have to explain, to get what I imagine in my head onto the page, I have to say, well, there's going to be 3 dialogue balloons on this panel. One's going to be at the top on the left, one's going to be in the middle, one's going to be down below. And I even do some little storyboards here and there, but ultimately I sort of give that up because Lee Ferguson is a great artist, and he knew more than I did as far as how to make a panel really come alive. So I can only give suggestions and hints and guesses, and it's sort of translated between what I was saying and what I thought the novel said and what he gave the novel to, and his dreams, and ultimately it's not a series of compromises, but just something new, some third person emerged and created the actual comic book, I'd say. So that was a great experience.
Thanks, Nick. Last year at San Diego, we were...
No, this year.
David. Yeah, I'm saying last year, but it was this year.
Yeah.
At San Diego. We were actually lucky enough to... did the author surprise us? Did that happen?
Oh, at San Diego Comic Con. So we totally didn't know until 4 days or 5, no, 4 days or 3 days before the movie adaptation Age of Tomorrow panel actually happening at the San Diego Comic Con. So, and we all learned about it, and our surgeon and his editor decided to come and to look at it. Then, okay, I go. And then I also just, I didn't have a plan, but I decided to go to a day trip on the day.
Yeah.
So that was really a moment, we see the whole things very quickly, but it was very big out there.
You got to meet Tom Cruise?
Yes, I did. But no, it's not like a really in-person thing, kind of as one of the audience. But I had a very good privilege to go into the first line to get his signature for the poster. So at the Warner booth, that's really cool. Yeah.
All right. So we have a little bit of a video from that show. So we'll show that right now, and we have a little dance party.
Yeah.
コンは初めてっていうかアメリカ本土に行ったのが初めてです。はいはいはい、島にしか行ってなかったんで、僕は日本ではコミケとかによく行くので、いやちょっとその雰囲気の違いっていうか、イベント自体はだからまあ普通に感じるんですけど、やっぱりなんていうかすごいと思ったのは人種のるつぼ感がこう、あ、なるほどこんなにその多種多様な人がいて見てるから、まあなんつうのかな。訴求するものを作らないとかすりもしないし、その刺さると大きくなるっていうのをなんか実感する感じですよね。こうみんな好き勝手に好き勝手なものをいろいろな人がやってるっていうのが、まあそれが面白いですね。全然現実感なかったんですよね。わあすごいことやってるなみたいな感じですごく大きくて、そうなんですよ。セットがものすごくて、リアルの街がそのままそこにあるようなものみたいなのも作っちゃってるんですよね。これユニットのことで言うと、今回公開されたスーツですか、スーツを要するに部隊単位で着て全員が着てるんですね。僕が見たところでそうですね、走り回ってる兵士の人も含めると30人か50人ぐらいは着てて、100個ぐらいはあったと思うんですけど、アーマー自体は要するに戦ったり、あるいは隊列を組んだりしてるわけですけど、あと対立を組んで歩いたり命令通りに 従って動いてるのもいいんですけど、まああれそんなにすぐ着たり脱いだりできない。30キロ以上確かあって、僕も着てもらったんですけど、僕みたいにその力のないやつだと動くのも精一杯ぐらいな。撮影ってそんなにずっと撮るわけじゃなくて、撮ったりあれじゃないですか。で休んでる間みんなこうそれ着たままこうやって休むんですけど、それがですねあんまりそのなんつうのかな、着てるものがリアルなので、軍隊、その未来の軍隊の人たちが休んでるようにしか見えない。手はすぐ外せるようになってるんですけど、それを外してこうやって休むんですけど、なんかこうそうその休み方とかもうなんかここにもちろん動力とかないから偽物なんですけど、ちょっと未来を先取りしている図がここにあるんじゃないかって思うぐらいこう全員でやってるとリアルなんですよ。そうですね。あれは良かったです。
Also, Hiroshi, who wrote the book you guys introduced. Yeah, we're really fortunate. Hiroshi Sakurazaka, who wrote the book called All You Need Is Kill, is here with us also.
We can open up to questions if you guys have anything to ask. Sir?
I missed the beginning, so I apologize if I didn't answer this, but I was struck by the writer saying that the movie people were asking the graphic novel to not be the same as the movie. What was the reasoning there? Are they planning on coming out with their own graphic novel, or why would they not want cohesiveness on the story world?
I mean, I'm not sure what their plans are for how they would license out their version of the film, but I think all sort of the creative parties, ourselves included, wanted to do sort of our own project based on the source material, because all of it, I think, in my mind, was happening so early. There's always sort of a chance. You know, it's great that there's a film now coming out with such big stars from such a big company, but at the time when we were talking about it, we got the green light to go ahead, but we didn't know for sure that there really would be a movie. So there was that too, where, you know, the book exists, so the graphic novel can still exist and be its own project. There may not be some like huge sort of media blockbuster to tie into when we actually put it out. So it needs to stand alone on its own. I think that was from our side. I don't know what their side plans would be.
So, in other words, if I'm understanding you correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like you're saying you've got the source material, which is the novel.
Yep.
You got a license to do the graphic novel adaptation, and then Hollywood, independent of you, did a deal, again, with the source material of the novel. So there were two separate deals. There were two parties having nothing to do with each other.
Well, I mean, we're involved, right? Because Viz Productions was involved. But it's a
Actually,
different company.
It's separate, totally separate. We acquired novel, so we got okay to develop the graphic novel version from this. Then Warner Brothers side also acquired the movie adaptation rights. So that's clearly separated. So we, this production is involving there, and there our own division. But the content itself of the two things, it's not really connecting at all.
Just one more question about that. So you're dealing with this other entity, which has a lot more money. How would you? What was that relationship like? Like, how often did you talk to them? How it sounds, when you're saying, don't make it like the movies, but you can't see the movie.
I don't really know. Only know that just the poster image and a couple other, the footage we saw, but that's all.
Yeah, we kind of know what you guys know, actually.
Yeah.
From the same person articles that you're reading.
It's really true. And only I can get some updates is actually by a Google alert. And Hollywood reporter or Deadline says something, and I thought, wow, cast is done, and something. And also, I just wanted to make it clear our own idea to make a graphic novel version from this novel is, we want to actually, we really love that story and everything. Kind of wanted to make in our way to visualize how this story is. So then this form is different, the comic and the movie. Then of course the stuff is different. It's totally separate development. But then because we originally introduced this title here, so we kind of wanted to keep the title ourselves to make it something. So then, we're so excited and we're really looking forward to see the movies. But it's clearly separate thing.
Any other questions out there?
Yeah, I was wondering if what do you consider a regular novel or a light novel in Japan? I know they're kind of older. And are there any manga adaptations or other adaptations in Japan separate from what you did here?
Good question. Actually, and so this is originally in this format. It's small, and this is in the originally published the imprint Shueisha Super Dash Bunko imprint, which is a light novel imprint. So then, as a position-wise, this is a light novel, but as a content-wise, I really don't think so, because then you're probably familiar with light novel. It's more different. There's no such a kind of cover image or title, and also this is a single book. Usually light novel is a series like a manga, more longer, and then kind of main character girls, and then story development happening. So it's different, and then also, but for me, regardless how this published or not, and then for us, we are introducing as a science fiction novel here. And then, as your second question about manga, as long as I know, and there's no manga adaptation, so we see how.
And we actually, if you guys don't have anything else, we have some signed copies to raffle off.
Yes,
so,
this is So last time, and I met with Mr. Sakurazaka, so he gave me 2 signed copy here. So,
Joel, can I ask you a trivia questions?
Yeah.
Sure, I'll do something based on the original writer at this point. So, I don't know, I actually went and read his other novel that we actually published as well. Have any of you guys, and do you know what Sakurazaka's other novel is called?
Is it Slum Online?
It is. Yeah, I actually love that book. It's really good. Okay, so now we'll move into movie trivia. We showed a short clip of a panel for Edge of Tomorrow. Do you guys know, he was sitting next to Tom Cruise, but the movie is starring Tom Cruise and Emily Blunt. But do you guys know who one of the other big stars in the film is, sort of third tier? Close. Yeah. Yes. Okay, you still win. Well, I'll tell you something really funny.
Yeah, actually.
Look at our note.
Yeah, actually, George said before, and I said no.
I was typing this up quick. So, not too embarrassed.
Yeah.
Any other questions from you guys?
Yeah. I didn't read the novel, but from what I saw from all 3 Adaptation movies, the armor is very iconic. I was wondering, in the planning of the graphic novel, you kind of had it before your artist gave you that vision. You had kind of an idea, because from what I saw, the movie had been very, and the covers were very detailed for that movie. And they're both very bulky, kind of like the hard movie. But your armor is more of a sleek, you said 50s style. Is there any concern that such an iconic piece of the story not taking long?
Yeah, that is a good question. And we thought about that a lot. And actually, some of the artists that originally turned in sketches had incredibly bulky art. think one of the things that we really talked about a lot, and actually Nick, the writer, had some concerns about this too, was making the comic book look like it could actually happen. There's a lot of stuff that they can do with special effects, and like Sakurazaka was saying, most humans probably couldn't actually fight in that armor if you put it in a realistic way. And so what we did was kind of try to stay true to the physics of what the armor would need to be like. The sleekness and the kind of 50 style came from Lee, but one of the things that I had asked for the first revision from the first round was that people could actually fight in this armor. So we went the less bulky way. Also, in terms of a visual storytelling, really, really bulky armor would have sort of taken up all the artwork and the panels, and there wouldn't have been a lot of detail. And there's a lot of detail in the artwork for this. But we're not worried about the difference between the looks at all. In fact, I think that's great.
Yeah, so, I'm sorry I came a little late, but who is the writer and artist?
Hiroshi Sakurazaka wrote the original novel, and we have Nick Mamatas, who's an American science fiction horror and mystery writer that did the adaptation. And the artist is Lee Ferguson, who does the Misadventures of Miranda Mercury, and that did like the Green Arrow Black Canary wedding album. And we're working with Fajar Buana as a colorist who works on Monsuno, Combat Chaos for us. So it's a pretty good team, actually.
And it's going to be under Viz? Or?
It'll be under Haikasoru. Yeah, it'll be the first Haikasoru original graphic novel.
Coming out May?
Yeah.
May
next year.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We have 1 minute left, so if you have a quick question. Oh,
yeah.
Haikasoru.
And one quick thing, and I just wanted to add, and so it's not really detailed yet, but Hiroshi Sakurazaka, he's actually writing a sequel of the All Needed Skill right now. So hopefully we can bring here sometime next year. So stay tuned and check out haikasoru.com and our website and such.
All right, thanks for coming.
Thank you very much.